Hello YouTube, and welcome to the second episode of 3 Wide. The NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series was at Atlanta Motor Speedway this week for the Folds of Honor QuikTrip 500. The race started with Kyle Busch on the pole with Ryan Newman joining him on the front row. The first 30 laps were quite possibly the best 30 laps we've seen in a while, with Ryan Newman rocketing around Kyle Busch in turn 2 to take the lead. He led for 20 laps, and then Kyle Busch came back to take the lead, but not for long as Kevin Harvick the very next lap used his bottom lane to take the lead away from Kyle Busch to set a theme of what's to come for the day. Then on lap 30 we had our competition caution, and after that we had a restart on lap 36, and Kevin Harvick showed what the rest of the day was mostly going to be like. This led to Kevin Harvick winning stage 1 over his teammate Clint Bowyer by 6+ seconds, which led to Kevin Harvick being interviewed after the pit stop, and he had to cut the interview off short because the pit crew did not get all the lug nuts tight due to a problem with the air gun. This would lead him to restart in the 19th position. This led to Brad Keselowski and Kurt Busch trading the lead back and forth, but not for long as 30 laps later, Kevin Harvick rallying back from 19th came back to take the lead. Then, 13 to go in stage 2, Jimmy Johnson spins off of turn 2, ending his chances at a good day in his lows for pros number 48. Then, with 8 to go in stage 2, Brad Keselowski beats Kevin Harvick off of pit road to get the start on the bottom for the restart. Kevin Harvick stuck on the top, gets a bad restart, and Brad Keselowski keeps the lead and wins stage 2. Then to begin the final stage, Kurt Busch has the lead, as later in the run, Kevin Harvick gets the lead back. This led to Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano going off strategy, trying to make the end of the race with only 2 stops instead of 3. Then with 60 laps to go, Chase Elliott decided to hop on the same strategy as Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano. Instead of going 50 laps on a set of tires, he would have to go 60 to get to the end of the race. Then with 29 laps to go, Trevor Bayne sets off his smoke screens as his engine lets go, leading to most of the backstretch being covered in smoke. With visibility being low, this led to Darrell Wallace Jr. getting into the back of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., causing a lot of damage to the 43 and minimal damage to the 17. Now with 21 to go, as Kevin Harvick keeps his lead on this restart, there's a 4-wide battle for 5th between Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, and Chase Elliott. As Chase Elliott would win that battle, but not for long as he fell all the way back for a 10th place finish. And Kevin Harvick wins the Folds of Honor QuikTrip 500 at Atlanta, with Brad Keselowski in second and Clint Bowyer in third. Overall, this race wasn't the most action-packed race, as Kevin Harvick led a race high 181 laps, with the next highest lap leader total being Kurt Busch with 52 laps and Brad Keselowski with 38 laps. Now on to the 3 bad things that came out of the Folds of Honor QuikTrip 500 at Atlanta. Number 1, the Bubba Bubble bursts. After a second place finish in the Daytona 500, everyone was behind the 43 car of Darrell Wallace Jr., hoping he can keep this up and make the 43 prominent again. But it seems like the 43 car reverted back to his old form with a 32nd place finish after Darrell Wallace Jr. got in an accident with the smoke from Trevor Bayne rear-ending Ricky Stenhouse Jr. This may lead many people to think that the 43 car is who we thought it was at the beginning of the season. Number 2, only 36 cars showed up. As many of us know, a full field in NASCAR in 2018 is supposed to be 40 cars, but 36 showed up this week at Atlanta, which leads me to believe that many teams are either deciding not to run the Cup Series, considering there was 43 cars that showed up for the Xfinity Series and 34 in the Truck Series. This leads me to believe that teams think it's smarter to run the lower series than to pull all their money into a Cup ride and not get the return on their investment. NASCAR needs to look into this to see if the charter system is to blame or something else for the low turnout in the Cup Series. And number 3, the Chevys being non-existent this weekend. The Chevys did not perform this week at Atlanta. This showed in qualifying with only 2 in the top 10, and at the end of the day, there was only 2 in the top 10 at the end of the race, with Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott finishing 9th and 10th. Many fans believe this year with the new Chevy Camaro that the Chevys will be more dominant and compete with the Toyotas for dominance in the Cup Series. After this week, this has many fans backing off on that statement. Now on to the 3 good things that came out of Atlanta this week. Number 1, the rain made people throw caution to the wind in the 3rd stage. When there was a glimpse of rain potentially threatening the Atlanta Motor Speedway in the 3rd stage, many teams decided to go all out, whether that is by pitch strategy or racing more aggressive to get the win at Atlanta. Usually when there's weather on the horizon in a NASCAR race, many teams decide to go all out. If we look back to Pocono between Kyle Larson and Austin Dillon a couple years ago, more aggression is a better race for most fans. Number 2, the Fords showed up this week. Going into the season, the Fords were looked at as to be the 3rd best car on the track. But after Atlanta this week, this has many people thinking that Ford may have more than what we thought going into the season, with their teams leading 272 of the 325 laps between 4 of their drivers, and having half of the top 10 at the end of the race. We'll see this week at Las Vegas if this was just a blip on the radar for Ford or more of things to come from the team. In number 3, we got the whole race in. Nothing is worse on a Sunday than sitting around for 2 hours in a rain delay, getting the track dry and only getting half of the race in. NASCAR got lucky this week to find a blip in the radar to get all 500 miles in and give the fans a decent show to watch. Now on to the 3 things I'm looking forward to this week at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the Pennzoil 400. Number 1, will Martin Truex Jr. repeat? Last year, Martin Truex Jr. won this race after passing Brad Keselowski, who had mechanical problems with 2 laps to go. Now with the new season updates, will Truex pick up where he left off last year here at Las Vegas? Number 2, our first look at the conventional mile-and-a-half tracks this season. As we know, NASCAR is built of many mile-and-a-half tracks, but this will be our first of 6 with the same layout, with 2 Las Vegas races, 2 Kansas races, a Chicagoland race, and Kentucky race. This will give us a glimpse into the rest of the season and who will perform better at these tracks. And number 3, will Chevy respond this week? After a dismal performance last week at Atlanta, Chevy looks to show back up to what people thought they'd be going into this season. Last year they had 3 cars in the top 10, with Kyle Larson finishing 2nd, Chase Elliott finishing 3rd, Jamie McMurray finishing 8th, and Jimmy Johnson and Casey Kane in 11th and 12th. With these results last season, this has me wondering if Chevy will take a step forward and be better than last year, or take 2 steps back and be worse than they were last year at Las Vegas. Now 2 drivers from each manufacturer I'm watching this week will be, for Chevy, Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott. They were the 2 best cars last week. They were the 2 best cars last year at this track. I'll see how they perform this year. For Ford, Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick. Brad was on his way to a victory last year when a mechanical problem made him slow down, and Kevin Harvick looks to keep up his performance from last week at Atlanta. And for Toyota, Martin Truex Jr. looking to repeat, and Eric Jones taking over a car that finished 9th last year with Matt Kenseth in it. And that'll do it for the second episode of 3 Wide. Leave your impressions from last week's race at Atlanta in the comment section below and what you're looking forward to this week at Las Vegas. Thanks for watching.